Recording?
Wait for you to go around.
You could have climbed under or jumped over
Yeah.
too, you know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Small Talk
Episode 1.
with composer Jeff Smallman.
This episode is brought to you by caffeine. Good to go.
Yay!
So, Jeff,
Yeah.
your first symphony, tell us about it.
I wrote one.
Yep.
Yeah, I did. What do you want to know about it?
Okay, so I know you started it when you were younger.
I
How old
did.
were you?
I was 13 years old when I started it.
I know.
Yeah. I was 58 when I finished it. Yeah.
I don't think you'll write a second one.
I think I've gotten the process a little better now, so it's possible. I might speed up the process now.
Okay, so as we were talking before, I went to go play it.
Yeah.
Pretty intense stuff. Can you tell us the mindset you had when you were 13 writing this? It's a little dark.
Believe it or not, I was a happy kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know. Like, I always thought I was a normal kid, right? Because I did all the normal kid stuff. I played the sports. I had a lot of friends, like, did all the normal kid stuff. I just also did music, right? I started writing when I was 8. So in those 5 years, I went from like a really simple piano thing to that, okay? Which now that I look at that is like, what the heck? Again, back then it was like, yes, that's normal, that's fine.
Yeah.
I started, believe it or not, it's because of like the Charlie Brown comics, okay? Yeah, I'm not even joking, okay? Before that, I used to go to my grandma's place and they had a piano and I used to just play thirds all the time because I knew thirds sounded good together. So I'd just play around on those. And then I guess, you know, my grandparents said something to my parents about maybe he should get piano lessons, and then started the piano lessons. Right about that time, I asked my aunt who Beethoven was because I didn't know how you pronounced
yes.
it, right?
Beethoven.
Yeah, all those guys.
Yeah.
And she just kind of got this look on her face like, Beethoven? I have Beethoven records. Come with me. And she played some of that for me, right? And I don't know. I have no idea what it was about that, but it was just like, oh, I like that, you know? At home, all I ever heard was country music, which does not come through in that at all, right? But honestly, like, the only classical music access I had was at my aunt's place. And she was like, do you want to hear some more? And I'm like, yep. And then, you know, your beginner piano pieces, which, again, don't sound like that. But it gave me enough to get the ball rolling. And then, you know, my mom would go grocery shopping. I'd ask her if she could pick me up a record. She'd ask me what I wanted. I'd tell her, and she had, like, no offense at all, but this was not the world of music she listened to. So I just kind of had to say, this, please. And she's like, okay. She'd bring me home some Beethoven. I lived on Beethoven for the first few years. And then I heard a Mozart symphony, and my brain exploded because it was a whole other level of writing I didn't even know existed. And I don't even know how many years it was of just listening to symphonies, because I loved it, right? There was so much in there, right? I remember at one point deciding, hey, I think I want to write one of those things.
Yeah.
And I started listening and what I thought was analyzing, just basically finding out what instruments came in what order in the music. And, I recognize this theme. I don't know how or where it came before, but I know I recognize it, so it must have been there before. You know, and those little things. I had no composition lessons. It was just literally make it up as you go along, right? So when I was 13, wrote that. most of that. I mean, being, this far removed from it, I went back and looked at it and realized, okay, I got to tidy some stuff up, But I tidied it up, and I thought, the whole reason that this has never come to light until now is because I thought it was garbage. I thought it was going to be garbage, right? This is going to sound awful. You go to university, and you're not really told, hey, you're good at this. You're told, oh, you've got so much to learn, and you need to unlearn what you think you know. Yeah. So I assumed everything I'd written was garbage up to that point.
Yeah.
And so I wrote it. I wrote the first movement when I was 13. I've made, some tweaks in the orchestration and cut out some things and introduced a couple of new ideas. So it's about 70% still original what it was, but now like 30% new stuff in there to round it out. Second movement I wrote when I was 16, because why would I want to write the whole thing in one go?
Right.
I'm a teenage kid. There's no reason I need to do this. So it was just like hobby. Okay, when I get to it, I get to it. Wrote the second movement when I was 16. All I did was tweak some of the orchestration. The rest is exactly as it was.
That's pretty cool.
No anything new. Third movement, I started it when I was 14, finished it when I was 18 or 19. Again, don't know why. And then by the time I got to the fourth movement, I was at the university and had so many new influences that nothing I tried to write was making any sense. Like it just wasn't going to work. So it just sat, didn't do anything with it, went onto the shelf, and I just moved on to other stuff, right? And then I was off for a long time because post-COVID stuff. And I thought, well, let's pull out some of the old scores. Let's see what I got. I have notation software now. Let's listen to it, see if I can get anything out of this. Input it all, hit play, expecting to really cringe, and got through those three movements thinking, I think I want to work on this. I think I want to finish this now. Mm-hmm. So that's how this finally came to light. Again, I thought I was a normal kid. I thought everybody did this. I literally had no idea.
You're literally Mozart.
I've lived longer than Mozart, so I think I win.
Jeff Smallman is the Mozart of the 21st century.
Yeah, that's me. I don't even know where to go with that.
So you touched on something very interesting there.
Okay.
You composed this when you did not have any access to any tech.
No.
And I'm assuming it was very interesting composing this at a time where it may not have even been accessible to you.
Yeah.
But now, some odd years later, you use music notation software to do it. So talk me through the process of how you would have done that then, how you do it now, and the whole kind of rediscovery of your piece once you put it through the notation software and you heard it through MIDI, but still kind of coming to life.
Yeah.
So true, so true.
Okay. This kind of is a question of, and I've had this question before, how do you write music? And I don't have an answer for that. Everybody does it differently. One of the questions I'm sometimes asked is, what is one of the most important things a new composer can do to get better? And one of the first things I always tell them is listen. Because, if we're writing music, again, I don't know how similar I am to other people. There's always something going on. Like there's always some music going on in there, okay? It's actually scary when it stops. Don't like that at all. But so you listen to what's going through your head, but you're like I said, I listen to symphonies. I listen to lots of other composers. By listening, you're actually learning the sounds. You're learning what instruments sound good together. You're learning how they should play. you don't know you're learning that, but you're informing all of that to yourself, right? So that is how this happened, because having listened for, like, intentionally listening for several years, I already had a library being built up in my head of what sounds and what instruments played certain types of gestures. So that's how that got written. Okay, just based on knowing what sounds I wanted to hear, thinking I knew the instruments and writing it out that way. I also wrote at the piano. I don't do that anymore for hardly anything, because I found out that what I could play on the piano was what I would write. So sometimes things would sound very pianistic even if they weren't supposed to. And sometimes if I had an idea in my head that I couldn't play at that particular time, I wouldn't write what I wanted to write because I couldn't play it. So I learned to get away from the piano so I could think more of what I actually wanted. Does that answer that question?
It does.
Good job. All right.
With notation software, did that change anything in how you write stuff?
No, but it made it easier to get an instant feedback. Early notation software, I mean, the software itself was fine for what it did. You put your notes in. Sometimes it would give you clues as to whether you're writing outside of the range of an instrument or not. But computers lie to you so badly, and you can write literally anything. Like, you play flute, I could write the craziest flute line and the computer will play it at whatever speed I want.
I cannot, though.
Right? So I mean, you have to know the limitations before you even start that. Plus, the early notation software, the sound you would get back, all it could tell you was whether certain notes actually sounded okay together or didn't sound okay together. You really had no sense of an orchestra or what even might be close to the sound. It was just computer noise. So.
Mm-hmm. And for your current notation software, you upgraded your MIDI, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a smart choice. Very smart choice.
I really put that off for a long time. So I use Finale, and then there's the Garaton Personal Orchestra that comes, the pared down version of that comes with Finale. I was okay with it. I knew, again, kind of where it was going and what sounds to expect. So I just thought, yeah, no, this works. This is fine. And then I heard some other recordings with better software. And then I went back and listened to one of mine, and I went, wow, this is really bad. Yeah. So I started investigating to see what else might be out there. There are, I mean, you've played with this stuff too. There are some that works well with notation software, and there's some that really doesn't. So you gotta find that, that kind of stuff. But I found something that's relatively decent and works for me now.
Yeah. Well, obviously you found something good, because I think a lot of your stuff on Spotify is a MIDI, but you don't even know.
That's good.
So that's really good.
That is good. That's kind of what I was hoping
for. If it sounds pretty, people will play it or sing it. So.
Yeah. And I honestly, I think you probably have heard some of this too. I've heard recordings that people have uploaded that are so obviously electronic, and I can't. 30 seconds in, and I'm just like, no. I mean, if it's supposed to be electronic music, great. But it was supposed to be like orchestral music, but obviously wasn't. And there is definitely a line between okay sounds and not okay sounds.
I'm assuming your goal for this piece is to eventually have it performed.
Yeah.
What do you think about when you're listening to the composition, like in the MIDI files, and then when you have it come to life? And obviously there's different interpretations than a computer would. Do you ever find yourself, you get like used to the MIDI file and you're like, ooh, that's a different thing that they decided to do, and I don't know how I necessarily feel about that? And conversely, do you ever have something in your head that the MIDI just can't get quite right, so then you're like, please perform it so you can get it right?
Yeah. Those are really good questions. Yes to all of that. You're exactly right when you say you get used to the way the computer performs it. So you already know what lines to listen for because you know the computer's going to do it that way. Then you hear a live version, and always you're gonna pick out new things you didn't even know were in there, just because of the space they're in, or the particular player, like all that kind of stuff. I'm really fine with people having their own interpretation, I guess. Because to me that's a big part of any piece, right? Like if this symphony, if this was exactly the way it was going to be played every single time, there would be no need for anybody to play it because it's already on there, But having conductor interpretations, having the emotional input from the players is going to mean every single time it's played, it's going to be slightly different. And I find that's a fascinating thing. The other part that you mentioned was there's sounds that I want that I can't get the computer to do. Can't tell you how frustrating that is, because I did a piece for the Windsor Symphony Orchestra, and it was in the 100th anniversary of Point Pelee National Park. So they had commissioned this work, and they wanted it to be a representation of the seasons at Point Pelee. And in the first movement, which is winter, I have the strings, the low strings, starting on one note and then just kind of glissing down to another note. And
MIDI's not good at gliss.
No. Holy cow. Like,
so bad.
There are sometimes I hear it and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that software, that sound library did okay, but I don't like that sound library. I'm going to try a new sound library. Nope, you can't do it at all. It's just like, it's all of a sudden 20th century electronic music at that point.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you got to learn to find that happy medium in there and then hope you get somebody to perform it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, you've had a lot of your works performed recently, actually. How has that felt?
I think every composer out there will be able to say that yes, that's what you want. Mm-hmm. I love, frankly, that anybody is performing anything of mine, and I am so thankful.
Well, what was it like working with the Windsor Orchestra?
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, it again, hearing it with live performers, amazing. Getting to work with them and answer questions that they might have, because it makes you think about why you did things, also amazing. I have nothing but good things to say about them. They've been the only orchestra who seems to want to give me time, or give my stuff time, and to work with it and to want to perform it more than once. And I am extremely thankful for that. That's a rare thing. I'm finding it's a very rare thing.
Thank you, Windsor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Windsor.
Okay, so can you describe what it's like when you get a little tune in your head? What happens? What's that like?
People can't talk to me because I am really preoccupied by either listening or trying to not listen to that tune sometimes. Have you ever driven but not really paid attention to where you're driving?
Maybe.
That may be what's happening when I hear these tunes in my head.
I see.
Yeah. As I said, there's always tunes going on. I'm more used to it now than I was. But if there's something that I really need to pay attention to, other things do suffer sometimes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually, if you check out Jeff's Instagram page, we've made a couple memes about this, actually.
They are true.
Yeah. Like the typical, you're on a highway and then one person veers off. Yeah, you know the one. Yeah. Going straight is the projects that you should be working on.
Yeah.
Even commissioned for.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then you veer off and it's just anything else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I, again, thought that's the way everybody did things.
No.
I'm finding a lot out, really.
It works for you, obviously.
It really does. It's always been like that for me. Schoolwork, anything, it was here's the deadline. Let's go do something else entirely until 2 days before it's due. Mm-hmm. I've never missed a commission deadline.
Hear that?
He's responsible, folks.
I am responsible.
Yes.
I'm a little nerve-wracked by the end of it, but I am responsible. I think having done it enough times now, I'm less stressed by it than I used to be, because oh my goodness, used to drive me absolutely nuts. Now I just know it's part of the process.
You had a due date for something, and that's why you finished it, right?
Yeah, that may have changed, but yes.
Well, you had a due date for something.
I did.
And that's what got it done.
Absolutely.
So at least you got it done.
Yeah, I mean,
because
if that hadn't happened, if I didn't have that due date, this probably still would be on my shelf. It's true.
This is the longest you spent on a piece.
I hope so.
I
To
have
compose?
some that I haven't finished yet.
Oh, so maybe this isn't...
There may be new
at least
records
to
being
this
set.
point. Yeah, Mozart wrote in one night.
Yep.
You like to take your time.
Well, I want to make sure it's right. You know.
So Mozart was wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
You're better than Mozart.
I nailed it.
What would you say is your fastest, or at least your most efficient work from start to finish, from conception to in print?
I've written pieces in a day,
Wow.
a couple of days, yeah. That comes back to, like, how do you write music? Sometimes you just hear the piece and have to write it down.
So when you were in university, and were your works finally being performed, or were they performed in high school?
Okay, so I've always been horrible at letting people know that I write music. There were a couple of small performances that I gave, like in just rural towns nearby. High school, no. I really don't. Again, like I am the worst at promoting myself. University, there were a couple of pieces performed here, which was kind of a new experience for me, that I could write something, hand it over, and have somebody else perform it. That was, like it's like winning the lottery. That was kind of what it felt like for me. So I had a couple of brass pieces done that way. Through the composition classes, the comp students, they usually get their pieces read. So I had one or two done like that. And then once you graduate, it's like, okay, well, thanks for coming. Here's your piece of paper. Good luck. And after that, it's like build your own network, and I just don't have one. So it's been a slow process.
He has a website. He has a Facebook page, and
Yeah.
he has a very nicely run Instagram. I run it.
All thanks to her. And it's one of those things that you hope somebody's going to come across and find, because I don't do a good job at sharing that information.
Well, it's kind of weird, but we are entering an era where you kind of need social media to get yourself out there.
Yep. Do you remember the look on your face when I said yes to Instagram?
I was shocked.
You were more than a little shocked.
Yep.
And I was actually shocked that I agreed to it, but it does make sense for sure.
And it's been nice. Like, I think it's
been fun.
Yeah, it's been fun. And also, like, when someone looks you up, you now, like, you're established
Yeah.
on there.
Now we just
try and make it look nice.
Now we just need everybody to tell all of their friends.
Follow Jeff Smallman. JJ Smalls.
JJ Smalls.
Actually, his handle is J Smallman, right?
J Smallman dot composer.
J Smallman dot composer.
If you go JJ Smalls, I don't know what you're getting. Not me.
How do you feel about the controversy surrounding your name? So there's Jeffrey.
Uh-huh.
There's Jeffrey. There's G.
Yeah, that one's just wrong.
EOF. Is it GEOF or is it GOEFF?
Geoff.
Yeah, Geoff. So
Yeah.
GEOFFREY.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Geoffs out there, starting with a G?
Illiteracy is a very bad problem in the world. We need to take care of that. And for the record, none of the spellings you used are my name. Yeah.
E-F-F.
Yeah.
E-R-Y.
Are you Jeffrey?
No.
Jeffrey.
No.
You have to have an E in there, right?
No.
No?
Are you Jeffrey?
I am.
No, that doesn't feel
Jeffrey?
right.
Jeffrey?
Jeffrey.
Oh, no.
You're not even Jeffrey?
Oh, no.
Well, this started off making fun of other people. Now we're just
Now we're just
funny.
picking on me. Pick on me. I'm good with it. Yeah, we were poor. I couldn't afford the second E.
He's Jeffrey.
Jeffrey.
But I'm unique that way,
That's true.
right? Oh, I have one question for you, actually.
Oh.
Okay. So since we're talking about my music, one of the reasons we're doing this is because I learned that you have to promote yourself at some point or another. So being a Canadian composer, most people don't know any Canadian composers' works at large, and you don't know the reasons behind the pieces most often. So this is part of what this is about. It's just like, here's some of the pieces I did, here's some of the thought behind it or how the process worked, just to kind of give a little insight to some of these pieces. If people have questions about any of them or any that we haven't talked about, they can fire them our way and we can look into those. But now that you've been exposed to some of my music, and like when you started, you didn't know who I was. When you started working with me, you did not know who I was other than I was going to be your boss.
My mom did, though.
Your mom did, but you didn't.
My mom flipped out.
So when you found out, I'm just curious, what did you expect being a Canadian composer? What were you expecting? And you recently told me you've learned not to have a small box when you're considering a piece of mine. So do you want to explain that?
Well, none of your music sounds the same, which is very good.
I do that on purpose.
Yes, you do a lot of different things with your music, and every time you're like, oh, like this is gonna be crazy, right? I'm not really surprised anymore.
Okay.
Because you have a lot of curveballs and surprises in your music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of it can be like very, I don't know, fast paced and like dramatic and like intense. Like I said before, I feel like your music could be in movies. A lot of your music could be in movies.
I have heard that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, like, it almost seems like action sequences sometimes.
It's not intentional.
And then other times it'll be like, it's as if it's like setting the scene for something. So it's really interesting. I always have like these visuals in my head when I listen to your music.
See, that makes me very happy because that's, again, going back to the story about my aunt, that's one of the first things she told me listening to the music is like, can you see a picture? Can you see a story happening? So that has been in my head ever since of if you're going to write good music, it needs to tell a story, whether there's a program to it or not. It needs to share something, right? So that's probably unintentional now, but the fact that it still does that makes me happy. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, definitely. There's always a cool story. Even Dance of the Night, like I love just picturing like someone just like kind of like sneaking like downtown or like in the dark and just like having fun and like kind of dancing, but like just like going through the shadows, like just like fun and sneaky and and like being able to picture that also obviously makes this play it a lot better. But all of your music, it's very different. It's never the same thing. Like sometimes it's an action movie, sometimes it's like a Tim Burton film, I find.
Okay.
Like kind of like, I don't know, not funky is the right word.
Well, I think you told me once, because you've known me now for a few years, you know my personality, sense of humor, that kind of stuff. So you expect that type of music.
Yes.
And then when you hear something of mine that is not that, you seem surprised.
Yes.
Why?
Well, your personality, I think the way that you get through the day is by just like constant joking with your colleagues. And I think that's great. I think it's awesome.
Okay, not everybody does, but thank you. I appreciate that.
I think it's awesome. I worked at the music library with him. It's been great. But I think, when the more serious side comes out, I feel like you don't usually show that side, at least not at work, because I think you like trying to make work a very fun place for people. So it's just a side of you that I didn't know about yet, so which is cool. Yeah, but the more serious stuff, it's like, ooh, and then sometimes I'll even ask you, like what's the inspiration for this? You're like, I don't know. So, like, you don't really show a lot to that side of yourself. So it's nice to be able to hear that through the music, at least.
Okay, and as a musician, you would probably understand this. You would agree that sometimes that's the way you share certain things.
Yes.
Right? Rather than having to tell people or explain things or, you know, have any kind of session with anybody, sometimes you can just do it this way.
Yes.
You know, and you can probably say it better this way than you could with words. At least that's the way I feel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, another thing that surprises me is most of the time your music is just like, you always prioritize the music being very beautiful all the time, even if it's very intense. And but it's always beautiful. But every once in a while, you'll just like, you'll do something that will just be like, wah. You know what I mean? Like, you'll just throw it in just to like make things interesting. And I think that's really fun.
Okay.
A better way of describing that. But like, you throw curveballs.
I do. I think part of that is the thought process. It's just the way my brain works, right? Yes, I honestly do feel like not everybody can write music. And I'm not saying, hey, this is great, I can, you can't. That's not where I'm going. It's just I've learned that not everybody can do this. I honestly feel, and this is me, this is not like the mandate for every composer out there. I honestly feel like it is our job, or at least my job, to not reflect the ugliness in the world or to add to the ugliness in the world, because frankly, it doesn't need any help. I really do believe there's a need for music that is beautiful, for beauty, period, in the world. And so that's, even if it's a dark topic or, you know, there's an edginess to it, there has to still be an element of beauty to it. That's just the way I approach it. And I hope it sounds natural in the way the music plays itself out. But I also sometimes hear those wah moments in the music, because that's where the music goes in my head, and it says, oh, you need this now. Okay, let's write that. So sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it's just not, but that's what it needs in my mind, so that's what I write. Oh, and also, if anybody sees this and they have any questions, like, fire them our way.
Yes.
Right? Because then we can start
Yeah,
getting
we
feedback.
should do an Ask JJ.
Yeah.
That's JJ.
JJ Smalls.
Yeah.
It's very approachable, very
Yeah.
kind.
Try to be.
Yeah, he'll give you nice pointers.
Sure.
Working at the music library, you get to actually give a lot of people advice, which is really nice.
Whether they want it or not.
I think they want it. They want it.
We'll go with that.
Well, just you, like, being a presence at Western makes people want to perform your stuff. So,
That's actually nice to hear.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if people like you as a person, they'll want to perform your things. If you're
At
not a good
least until
person-
they hear your stuff. And then they
Yeah.
might decide, no, I'll just talk with you.
Yeah, but we live in an age where new music can be...
Here's
different.
a topic of conversation.
Yeah, and your music, it tends to still be very tonal.
Yep.
Sometimes there's a little crunch in there, but like it's very tasteful. Well, the piece we're doing, the quintet, ends on an interesting chord.
What's the chord? Do you know? Do you remember off the top of your head?
I know I play...
Do you know all of the pitches?
I know I play a C.
You play a C.
So
it's a C.
So it's a C minor and a G major at the same time.
Why am I forgetting what it's called?
A Dance of the Night.
Dance of the Night.
Yeah.
Was that one for a wind quintet first or saxophone quartet first?
Strings.
What?
It was for string quartet.
I didn't know that was an option.
Yep.
You see, like, interviews where they, like, know everything, and the person's like, how did you know that? We're just like,
We know nothing.
So you're a composer.
Nope. I cut the grass in the city parks.
It seems like we have the wrong Jeff Smallman. We'll be right back.
5 hours later.
If you have any questions for Jeff,
Absolutely.
we will answer them next time we do this. We'll probably end up having a lot of guests on here because Jeff has a lot of friends that would love to talk to him on here.
Or say things about me.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Next time, we'll talk about Ich Licht. Did I say it right?
Ins Licht.
Ins
Licht. Ins
Ins
Licht.
ins Licht.
I'm really not trying to make fun
For all
of
the German speakers out there, we apologize.
I am sorry. Ich liegt.
Ins. I-N-S. Ins.
Ins.
Licht.
Licht.
There you go. We're going to talk about another piece next time.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one. It's
Okay.
12 tone.
Yeah. There's stories about that one. Mm-hmm. We have lots of pieces we could choose from. So again, if anyone's listening to this and has a piece they would like us to talk about, you can find all of my stuff on Spotify that I've uploaded so far, and throw one our way, ask questions, and yeah, we'll talk about it.
He doesn't want to talk about the 12 tone piece one.
I don't mind talking about that.
But still, let us know if you want us to talk about something else.
I mean, 12 tone is scarring.
Yeah, he's a big 12 tone guy.
Absolutely. We'll talk about that next time.
Cut. My phone.
I think the camera guy went on break or something.